actually the 6th week of a series, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently because sometimes intense times call for some measures where we all come together in what's called the Sangha, where we come together as a community and help each other to relax. I think most of us can say that we've never been through anything like this. And therefore, there is really no way for us to be able to gear how we would deal with it on any level. There are plenty of sources on what to do for the physical part or the social distancing and all that. But tonight's class is going to be more about helping you to have some tools that can actually help with your mind and your heart, rather than any practical information on how to stay physically healthy. Although I would like to say that the practices of, we call it meditation, but we're using focus, we're using concentration to actually bring our mind back to the reality of what is happening in our moment really. Like that right now, most of us are probably sitting in a comfortable place where we can be calm. So instead of letting the mind ruminate over all of the information we may have taken in today, or the what ifs about this, the what ifs about this, this is an opportunity for us to really stay in our moment. And in the moment, we can discern then what things are actually making us fearful. So there are several things with meditation and concentration practices that we want to keep in mind. First and foremost is we want to have a commitment to it. And right now is a perfect time where everything seems really chaotic to commit to it. And I'd like to say is that it needs to be something realistic. Neuroscience is saying that anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes of quiet contemplation in some way will change the pathways in your brain to a calmer sense for the most part. So science is catching up with what yogis have been doing for thousands of years. So tonight is kind of practical, but it's also, there is a sense of spirit that comes in, because when we have a pandemic like we are experiencing right now, it's also a great opportunity for us to bring back the sacredness of our lives. Because when we forget how special the gift of life is, our breath, and each day that we wake up and we take it for granted, something like this is throwing us completely off center. What ifs become, I wish I had. So now is our opportunity to use the practices of concentration and meditation to really bring yourself back to yourself. Because the more intimate relationship we have with ourselves, then we can take that intimacy into all the relationships of our lives. So tonight is about finding some tools for you to relax. So we're going to start with something very simple. It's called the metronome. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, a metronome is the little ticking instrument that you probably had on top of the piano when you were learning to play. And so it's a movement. So we're trying to find tools that help us to pull the mind in, like I said. So with the metronome, we use our inhalation. We want to breathe nice and full and deep. And on that inhalation, you will move to one side. So I'm going to exaggerate. I'm inhaling. I exhale to the center. I inhale to the other side. I exhale to the center. I'm always bringing myself back on the exhalation to the center. So it's so inhale one side, exhale center. Inhale the other side, exhale center. So So you'll do it with the most long breath that you can, but that it will be, that is comfortable. So you're not forcing in air into your lungs, but a longer breath than you would normally use. You'll close your eyes if that's comfortable, or looking down to the floor if closing your eyes does not feel comfortable. And you'll focus on inhale right, exhale center, inhale left, exhale center, inhale right, and you'll keep going. So we're going to take a few moments to do that. When your mind wanders and suddenly you go, I don't know what I was I in the center? Was it beautiful? Recognize that you are unsure and start right back with inhale right, exhale center. This is a way to calm down, but it's also an exercise to rein in your mind. So go ahead and let your eyes close or looking down, hands just resting onto your knees. And if you're comfortable with it, bringing your index finger and your thumb together. I'll explain that in just a minute, but this is a mudra. And so the movement can be big or it can be very subtle. I'm going to give mine a little bit of movement so you guys can see it, but you do it with your own breath. So eyes closed or down, first breathing out and breathing in. Breathing into one side and always exhaling to center. Just check in with your thoughts and start again. The next time you come to center, just let yourself sit quietly for a moment. And without judgment, just notice if the exercise was easy or difficult. Was your mind able to let go and stay with the breath and the movement? Or were you constantly distracted? And without judgment, just know that. What we're doing tonight is giving tools for you to find something that works for you. So that is a combination of what we would call a breath control exercise, pranayama. The breath is known to help us to really center and calm the central nervous system. So using the breath, which is always with us, is always available. When you feel anxiety rise, you can do something as simple as this next breath that we call total breath in our practices. The total breath is just allowing yourself to feel the capacity to fill the lungs to a sense of ease, and then in exhaling it all back out. So total breath, inhaling in, then exhaling it back out. What you can also do with that same breath, especially if you start to wonder in the mind, is add a count to it. So it would be like a 1, 2, 3. And then the same on the exhale. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So you would find that number for yourself silently. So let's try a couple rounds of that, just closing your eyes, finding a breath that's not just in your chest, but fully, and maybe adding the count. Just checking in if you're thinking. It's fine, just let it go and come back to the inhale, exhale, and the count. Remaining with this fuller breath, you can also just tune into the sound of your breath. If the counting was distracting, again, we're trying to find things that will help. It might be just the actual sound of the breath that you can connect with on the inhale and the exhale. And then go ahead and bring yourself back into the room, into your body, so that you can open your eyes for a moment. It's important to know why we're sitting. So perhaps having an intent for why we're sitting. And like I was saying when I first started, that we want to bring a sense of sacredness into our life. The mudra, which is just a placement of hands, that I first had us do, is called Jhana Mudra, and it's just a placing of the index finger and the thumb together. And this is symbolizing that we're bringing our mind and then our consciousness and our awareness together. So we're bringing those together. So our hands are they're one of our main sensory organs. We feel, we touch, all of these. So how we hold our hands can give us a big indication of how we hold our mind. The most basic would be that if your fists are clenched, you know that you're angry. But how many of us are picking at ourselves or moving our fingers? And so that gives us an indication that there's more going on, that we're nervous. So can we, in our breathing, add the mudra? So mudras are another way for us to hold the mind in place. All of these things are just tools for us to really bring the mind into the power of what we would like to perceive and how we would like our life to be. So a really beautiful mudra I'd like for us to do tonight, please, everyone, is called Padma, which in Sanskrit just means lotus. So you bring your hands together in prayer position. We're going to leave the base of the hand, the baby finger, and the thumb together. But we're going to open these three up. So this becomes our own personal lotus. So we have our hands are forming this flower in front of us, a symbolic lotus. And we can place our intention in there. So intention is a really powerful mental tool, because when we know why we're doing something. So for instance, I would suggest that everyone know why they're watching this video or here in class tonight. What is it that is that speaks to you about meditation or concentration? So this can be something to start your practice with. So we'll just come into Padma Mudra with our hands. Let your eyes close, and your intention can be health, wisdom, knowing, whatever it might be for you. So just take a moment to have an intention for what it is about concentration or meditation that you'd like, that you're thinking of for yourself. And just place that here in your flower. And then bringing that intent, we're going to open the flower a bit, just bring it into our heart. So a sense of being sacred in the moment is just having this intention. And then we might be feeling a little awkward because we've never done anything like this before, or it might seem a little strange. So we're going to do one big inhale and an audible exhale. So those of you at home, I want you to do this too. Inhaling deeply. Let it go. Let's do it one more time. Inhale. And then an exhalation. There's some very practical things about what we're doing with practice. Knowing having a commitment. So knowing when and how often we're going to do this. Frequency is more important than the duration. So doing it every day for 3 minutes is found to be more effective than doing it for 15 minutes twice a week. The body forms to the habit. So things for you to think about is make a commitment right now or tonight, maybe even write it down. How much time can you spend every day? You have 3 minutes, and see how that works. 5 minutes, great, but make it so that you know that you'll be able to stick to it. And then be consistent with it. So that's why it's important to know it's a time that you can do. Then maybe even set aside the place where you know that you can do it. Because the effects of meditation and concentration are cumulative. The posture is very important. It doesn't matter if you're sitting on a chair or if you're sitting on the floor, but remove as much of the distractions that your body will give you. So sitting nice and upright, not so stiff that then your body is concentrating on the stiffness, but just a nice upright posture. I suggest that you set a timer so that you're not constantly wondering about how much time you're doing. Set the timer for 3 to 5 or 7 minutes, and then use your journal or just a piece of paper, especially the first week or two that you're doing this, so that you know what's working for you. Beautiful. So those are some of the practical things about it. Setting an intention, knowing how much time, being consistent, and then figuring out which of the practices that you're doing are really working for you in this, so that you can continue to do them. What you might find too is that some days one practice will work, some days another practice will work. You're eventually looking to be able to sit quietly and in silence, and I suggest, even if you're doing 5 minutes and you do 4 minutes of, let's say, the metronome, set yourself aside 30 seconds to 60 seconds where you just allow yourself to be still and see how that goes. Great. So remember to be nice to yourself, especially if this is the first time that you've tried these exercises out. But what I want to tell you that what my main meditation teacher, Sally Kempton, has said over and over again is everyone can meditate. You can shake up a Coke bottle and it can get really whacked out and fizzed out. But once you set it down, no matter how long it takes, it will settle. So some of us are a little bit more shook up than others, and it might take a little bit more time for us to calm down, but we can calm down. So stick with it, the consistency. So we've talked about some of the mudras, which are the index finger and the thumb together. We've talked about Padma mudra, which is the lotus of intent. This is also a good one if there's somebody in your life who's having a really hard time, where I think a lot of us probably right now have that. But I use it a lot when there's someone in my circle who's really ill. And so before I start my meditation, I actually place them here. The other mudra that I'd really like for you all to try tonight, which is new for the class as well, is we bring our left hand to our heart. We bring our right hand up in front of us. So without this one, you see this a lot in Indian statues, okay? But we're going to add this to it. This is Abhaya Mudra, which is the mudra of fearlessness. It's to find that sense of being fearless in our heart. We're not afraid of our life. We're not afraid of what's in our heart, and we're going to live authentically. So with everything that's going on in the world right now, this is a really good one. And this is one while you're doing your social distancing at the grocery store, if suddenly you're just anxious, no one's going to notice if you just put your hands on your heart. This one, maybe. But if you just have your hand on your heart, who knows? Maybe the whole grocery store will start to do it. Wouldn't that be fabulous if we could all just be doing this mudra together? So when you have some fear, this is really good, okay? And for those of you who have children, they love mudras. And if you explain to them that it's all about self-love. This one goes along with a mantra. So mantras are also tools for us to be able to calm our mind. They are sounds that we make, and it is, again, being discovered by science to go along with what yogis have known for thousands of years, that the repetition of a sound can really relax us, okay? So we're using old sounds, one of the oldest languages ever, called Sanskrit. And it is said to have this rhythm that we tap into and that really soothes our energy. The mantra that we're going to practice tonight, which is good, is Aham Prama. Okay, that's how I'm going to say it tonight so that we can really hear it. There's a little hurt on the Prama, but we're going to do Aham Prama. So it's A-H-U-M, Aham, and then Prama, and it means I am love, and I'd like you to also think about it as everyone is love. So tonight's major concentration of newness for the series class is to learn this one, and this for everyone. So this mudra we'll start with. Now, if it gets a little too much to hold this arm up, you can just bring your hands in. You can always bring your hands down. Being able to stay comfortable is the most important thing. But I'm going to start like this. So Aham Prama. We're going to say it several times together, and I will then indicate the last one so that you'll know. Let yourself kind of just get into the rhythm of it. Aham. Eyes closed. Just take a breath out.
Aham Prama. 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 Prema. Aham 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 Prema.
Last one.
Aham Prema.
Just sit with your eyes closed and notice how you might feel. Did the repetition help you to relax? And maybe just the opposite, just noticing what the use of the words might do for you. Noticing the effects of the practice that you do is very important, so that you might see what it is you can do for yourself. Through these practices, we are developing a sense of deep ability to nurture ourselves, almost like as if we were caring for ourselves like a child. And I think right now, with everything that's been going on, some of us feel that need to be coddled. And we can do that through our meditation practices. Repeating words, I am love, which is what Aham Prema is just a message deeper and deeper into your own being. Now, these practices are not necessarily tied to any kind of religion or spirituality. Growing up as a Catholic or Christian or whatever the faith might be, most religions and spiritualities have mantras. Amen can become that for you. Amen. Amen is very closely related in the sounds that we would do in the traditional mantra of Om. Because with the traditional Om, we're usually saying it as a A-U-M. Om. So you can almost hear that. Amen. Om. Finding the comfort level. Finding what speaks to your spiritual heart is what the practices are all about. I have this incredible visualization going on every day when we're at home, chanting the Aham Prema, that instead of us being so anxious about what's happening, that all of us are doing that together. So maybe now that there's more of us doing that, we can add that in when we're a little nervous or overboard. I do want to just add that part of these practices also helped us to be more discerning about what helps us overall in our life. Just like those of us who know which foods are not good for us, so we stay away from them. It's the same thing with anything else that we take in. If you find yourself addicted to media right now, that is going to be counterproductive to what we're trying to do. I know we all need to stay informed, but figure out the source that you can watch and the minimum that you can watch and feel like you're staying informed. Really, by listening to just opinions and even analysts, we're still dealing with things that people really don't know about, and they spark our inward imagination of a whole lot of different stuff. So my suggestion is slowing down on your media intake. Maybe watch Disney films instead. Something that really makes you feel good. Or reading and finding things that inspire you right now. Because you're building your spiritual muscle through these practices and through feeding yourself things that make you feel better, you know? And one beautiful meditation practice that we can do that can help us to feel better is to have a sense of gratitude. Because even science, again, is saying that we can't do two things at once. We can't be two places at once. So if we're filling our heart with gratitude, it cannot also be full of fear. So I'd like for you to close your eyes. Hands can just be on your knees. Or you can have one of the mudras, whichever might feel more comfortable for you. And with your eyes closed and your breath deeper than just a chest breath, find a sense of relaxation for yourself as much as possible in this moment. And one practice that we can do is to imagine that we are breathing in and out through our heart center. Now in real life, physically, we are, of course, breathing in and out through the nose. But bringing our focus to the heart center, the spiritual heart, is approximately the same place that the physical heart has its home. And we breathe in and out. So the breath will be long, and imagine that you're taking your inhale in through the front of your heart, and that your exhalation will come from the back of the heart and through. So inhaling in the front, and then the exhale comes from the back. So just take a moment to see if you can kind of connect with that type of breath, like a little heart massage. So taking yourself out of your mind and head and into your heart breath. So eyes are closed. Just taking a few moments with that. You may find yourself distracted. Don't beat yourself up for it. Just bring yourself back to the focus of breathing in and out through the heart. For those of us who may feel really distracted, what we can add to this same breath is the aham on the inhale and the pram on the exhalation. Now we are thinking of the movement in through the heart and out through the heart, and combining the silent mantra. So we're giving the mind a lot of things to do as we relax. the heart with the possibility of adding the aha prema. Now a simple gratitude practice. As we may find ourselves a little bit more relaxed, placing one or two or three things or people that you're most grateful for, that you are grateful for in your life. For some of us, it may not be a person or a thing. It could be the planet. It could be many things. But right now, just try to think of one, two, or three things that you're truly grateful for in your life, and let yourself center on focusing on one of those. To bring yourself back, we're going to take a big inhale and then an audible exhale. So inhaling, let it go. So with that last exercise or technique, we breathe in and out of the heart, and then also bring in a sense of gratitude. So remembering the practical things of being consistent, having your intent. The other thing is also finding what works for you. So I'm not going to turn the camera around, but I am going to ask the class, does anybody have any questions? If you have questions, they probably have questions too. Does anybody have any difficulties or any issues with it?
Folks at home can actually type in questions.
Yeah. How about, did anything resonate? Aha prema or...
The heart breath that we just did really resonated with me.
Good, in and out.
Especially the exhaling out through the back.
Okay, good. So there's also a technique that's very similar, which I know some of the class have really liked, is so we can imagine it going in through the heart, out through the heart. We can also imagine that we're breathing in through the crown of the head and having it go down the front of the spine, turning and coming up. So we have this visualization of the breath coming in, going down, and coming back up. What we're looking for is something for the mind to focus on. So it focuses on that circle. Is that when you like? You love that? Yeah. So let me just say with that, because I've got several people who really like where you breathe in and down, and then it comes up the back, or it can be the reverse. You can breathe in from the back and up from the front. It seems like we're kind of geared one way or the other with that. So that would be another practice, Steve.
So someone just asked for a close-up of the board, so.
Okay. So we'll give a close-up of the board.
Julie just said that inhaling and exhaling audibly really helps her.
Okay, beautiful.
So the basics.
And while we're here, I just want to point out that the importance of having silence. So like I said before, whatever length you're practicing with, just add a little bit of silence so that we get more used to it. quiet and silence seems to be the most frightening thing. You know, where like horror movies of everything in the dark is scary, or it's under the bed is for kids or whatever. But really in yoga, what we find out is the silence and even the darkness holds so much beauty because they're the possibilities. And I know it might be really hard for some of us right now, but to be looking for what the possibility might be in this situation where we're sequestered. Those of us who are working on our practices are probably going to be given more time to do that, to develop an intimacy with ourselves. How do we deal with being by ourselves or being in that? Those are great things for us to know about ourselves. And I also just want to say that connection is extremely important. And the danger with this social distancing that we have, which I feel like we already had social distancing with all of our devices and all that, but I guess physically we were together, is it's not necessary. It's great when we can be physically together and we can hug. But if we energetically really think about other people, those of you who may have had a loved one who's passed, who you just had that feeling sometime when you think about them, you think about them and they're there with you, I believe that they are. Because right now in our world, we don't really give enough credit or belief to the energetics of who we are. But I mean, we all know we can just rub our hands together like this, right? And then we pull them apart and we can feel energy. You know, and if energy can't be created nor destroyed, where does our consciousness go? But that's a whole other series we'll get into, all right? So, another mantra that I want to give you in the few moments that we have left is this, it's Om, Hum. Okay, all of these syllables are said to have different meanings and do different things. This one it purifies our perception. It purifies our thoughts and emotions. Does anyone feel like their emotions are out of control right now? It's not that we want to live without our emotions, but we do want to have a clearer sense of them, to be a little bit more in control of them. Okay? So we're going to do the Om, Hum. Okay? So it's Om, like the Om, with O-M, and then the A-H, and then Hum. So you'll find that you'll need to figure out how you're going to breathe with mantras. Some of you might even be thinking, how do you breathe and do this? Because we're going to do it out loud. Now, one little tool, these are called mala beads. I also have tons of rosaries from generations of Catholics in my family. Sometimes I'll use a rosary, and sometimes I just use my fingers. And I'll try to keep track. I'll say, okay, I'm going to do it 30 times. So not only do I do this, then I have to say, okay, that's one. So it's all of these different techniques for keeping the mind occupied. Okay? So we're going to do several of Om, Hum. All right? So let your eyes close. I'm going to give just a little bit more instruction here. So let your eyes closed and your hands rest on your knees or in your lap, maybe into a mudra. Whatever feels comfortable for you, you're finding your own tools, your own practice. And with your eyes closed, allow your shoulders, if they haven't already, to move down away from your ears. So your shoulder blades are going to move down your back. Relax all the muscles of the face, even the jaw. Maybe just let the jaw open just a little, the teeth open, so it can relax. Allow all the muscles in your face and even the muscles of your eyes. We hold so much constriction there, just allow that to relax. And then as you're ready, I'm going to suggest that you do it out loud. If you feel awkward at home, just do it internally. But if you can do it even at a whisper, hum, hum, Last one. Just let your breath be deep and notice how you might feel. Just let your eyes be closed for a moment. And what we do afterwards, where we notice, especially for those of us who may feel calmer, is we note that mantra might be an effective tool for us. We kind of evaluate the technique that we've used to see if we might use it again. This mantra seemed to help you to relax more quickly and fully than perhaps just the use of a visualization of a breath. And for some others, it might be the opposite. Now in this quiet space, I'd like to go over one more practice for those of you who are not inclined to use the Sanskrit. But sometimes it's very beneficial for us to use words that we don't identify with. So we may know what they mean, but that they just have a different sound. For those of you who'd rather do something in a language that you know, you can do the same thing with the words let go. So the let is on the inhalation, let go. you can just take it inside. This can be powerful because you're not necessarily saying let go of what. It's just letting go of the whole constriction of your essence. So with the Om Aham, we did 54 repetitions. There's 108 beads on a mala, and we did this many. So for some of you, it might have felt like it was 3 times that. And for others, maybe it felt like it was a lot less. But it's good to just kind of know how that works. So there is the traditional mantra of Om. And using that is beautiful because it basically has more like 3 syllables. So when we do it out loud, it's an A-U-M. Om. Let's do 5 rounds of those together. So you can close your eyes if you'd like. We've gone through several different forms of practice tonight. Mantra, the sound, and mudra, the use of our hands. All tools to help us to bring our mind back into focus, reminding you that concentration and meditation is available to all of us. This simple, beautiful tool that we're all born with, our breath, can become the tool that can help to liberate us from the mind that will constrict us. By just breathing deep and intentionally. And I'd also like to suggest that you add, as we did with the Aham Brahma, or even if you use the English words of I am love. To further and further allow yourself to feel yourself as the essence of love. Love is the source from which we came. And as crazy and chaotic as the world seems at present, and has for a while, love heals, and love will be victorious. In our own lives and through our own hearts, we always have a choice. And when we choose to move through love, these practices that we have gone over tonight enable us to access deeper places in our being and in our own heart. Our minds and ego are necessary. Our emotions, they're all good, kept in balance. Letting ourselves be led from the heart. Everything that we hear and do, just let ourselves be led from that place. As one example, as we just sit quietly, there's a lot of stuff about people who are hoarding. And I would would like to say that we all have these instincts for survival. And for some of us, they're more ingrained and harder to let go of. So instead of putting these people down or separating ourselves from the hoarders and the non-hoarders, open your heart to know that somewhere in them, they are living with such great desperation and fear. And perhaps we can place our hand on our heart when we see them or we think about them, and we can help them by just allowing them to live through their own heart. Less and less seeing the separation of the things that divide us and helping to bring us together. Stay consistent with your practices. Set an intent. Set your time frame, because you're worth it. You are worth every effort you make to live your life more fully away from fear. So we turn off the TV, we turn off the sources that scare us, and we listen to the people who inspire us. We read things that have us know that life is good. So to end this practice tonight together, and one last thing is you in the class know, our website, www.robandsteve.net, has free meditation exercises on it. There's a beautiful chant on there, the Om Asatoma, which talks about bringing the light and the dark together, bringing the poison and the nectar together, because all of it is needed. So, Steve and I are going to sing that to you once, and then you can go to our website, and then we'll end with an Om. So just receive this in your heart.
Om Masato Masatgamaya Tamaso Majoti Egamaya Brityo Amritam Gamaya.
So breathing out, and in for our Om. Namaste, my friends. Namaste, much love.
So this will still be up on Rob's Facebook page if you want to watch it again and again and again. Thanks for joining us tonight.